Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Paul from ForReal, and we are here with Nathaniel Frank of M Toxins. Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
So, why don't you kind of go ahead and tell everybody where you came from, how you got started in this, and then there's a couple things I really want to touch on, to kind of kick this off.
Okay, well, I started keeping reptiles when I was 6, and I'm a slightly older fella, so ball pythons were actually really cool back then. And I had a cousin who kept several ball pythons that were all wild caught imports, and started working with those and different turtles and tortoises, and it kind of just stuck with me for a really long time. That same person used to also go and see the reptile, the Miami Serpentarian, Bill Haast, and would bring me back memorabilia from that. And it kind of just inspired me to stick with it. I got out of it for a while, got married, had kids, and went right back into keeping reptiles again. And M Toxins formed to supply venom to one person, and that was Dr. Brian Fry. So we provided venom for a couple of studies, and then it turned into what else can you produce? What else can you produce? And so it kind of grew. And then a few years ago, we took on some anti-venom clients. So the majority of our production goes to anti-venom. I would say it's 80-20 towards anti-venom. Everything else goes out for private research.
Okay, that's great for all of us that are working in the venomous field. I'll say, and you know that I kind of met you through Cody, so and
Right.
I've worked with Cody for 2 years, or a little over 2 years now. So it's important to all of us, obviously, that we have these things, and it's a great network that we have the honor of being a part of, to have you guys to kind of back us all up, so to speak, when we have issues, if we have issues.
If you have issues.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I really, really want to touch on, obviously, most people know, you took, wasn't a direct bite, right? It was a scratch from a mamba.
Yeah, that was back on September 13th.
Yep.
2020.
So a lot of things that, like, I get asked at work from people that that they don't keep reptiles and definitely don't keep anything venomous, is, man, what if you get bit? What's it like? What? And it's like, well, I don't know, and I hope to never know.
You hope to never know. Yeah,
exactly. But I think this is would be a great learning experience for people to know what you went through. Just in the overall story as to how it happened.
Sure. So with the mamba bite, so mamba, believe it or not, the first venomous snake I ever learned with was a 10-foot female black mamba. So the first venomous snake, I never handled anything else at that time, and I was pretty much thrown in the fire. But I've been handling mambas now for 12 years, and I've never had a close call, nothing. But what happens is, I was in the anti-venom mix. A lot of times we like to use younger snakes as well as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a 3-foot male. And when a mamba bites, it's unique in that its nose pushes down. It's unlike the physiology of really any other snake when it's biting. They almost, flip their nose down in. And since it was a smaller specimen, I took my index finger and helped it on the nose and got my nice venom collection that I needed out of the snake. And this is how these things happen. I lifted up the hand with the snake before I lifted my finger that was on its nose, and it got me right in the index finger. So the snake, to be honest, I've had 3 bites in over 150,000 venom extractions, and none of them were the snake's fault. It was my hand was where it shouldn't be, or my Bothrops bite, I wasn't using a long enough hook. I'd handled Bothrops for a decade, and this particular specimen leapt all the way over the hook and got me. And one thing I try to tell people, I know we want to talk black mamba, and we'll do that in a second.
Yeah, but, for sure.
The one thing that bothers me in venomous keeping is everyone thinks their snakes are super mellow, or they think that my snake would never do that, etc. And when I used to be on social media, I would go and correct these guys and say, like, unless you're a venom extractor, in most cases, that's when you're going to see the worst of these animals, because they don't know why you're there, but they do learn when the tub opens, it's either food or you're going to come and take my venom, you know, and that's when they'll muscle up and really be a pain in the butt. So, but the scratch happened. I waited. We have a very strict safety protocol. Our fire department knows us. We run drills with them for EMT purposes. My staff know the African antivenoms we help make can be administered direct in without needing to be in a bag hung. So they can be reconstituted, and my staff knows how to give me antivenom if that came to be. And the police are very involved with us. So as well as then snake bite doctors who are 100 times smarter than I am. But what happened, so the bite happened, and our protocol, of course, we have the serum on hand. So against my snake bite doctor's recommendations, I waited, because I had just taken that snake's venom. There could have only been, you know, and you start to second guess yourself. Did I even get envenomated? Did anything happen? But then your mouth starts to, it's like you're sucking on pennies. It gets, doesn't matter what venomous snake it is, you get this irony taste in your mouth, and then the neurological stuff started. So I wasn't able to control my tongue. I couldn't control my eyes. Luckily, the hospital here is 10 minutes away, and so I got there a half an hour after the envenomation. I got 4 vials of antivenom within 45 minutes of being at the hospital, and I left that evening. So I tell people, like, it's all about preparedness, right? The doctors know us, the EMTs know us, the police know us, and we live in a small town. So if we're racing to the hospital, you know, the police know something happened. Yeah. So we do involve poison control as well for the state, because we help treat private keepers that get envenomated as well. Okay. Which happens more than I think it should.
Yeah. Well, and you know, let's go back to what you were just saying. I know my animal. I know that I've had this animal for years. It's never going to bite. I know the body language. The very first thing I learned, and I've kept reptiles for over 20 years, but I've not worked with venomous because my kids were all younger. Sure. And I promised my wife that until the kids were old enough to really understand what was what, I just wouldn't do it. It wasn't worth it. Sure. So, but we've worked with retics and berms and all the big snakes. So we have experience dealing with troubled youth, if that's a good way to put it. So when people say that, one of the first things that Cody taught me was, you never know. You know, my first day there, I helped him clean black mambas, and I think there was 7 or 8, or I think you have 6 of those.
I have 6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like very uneventful. And he told me when we were all done, he's like, that's never happened. He goes, usually one jumps off the hook, it ends up under here, it goes this way, it does that. And it's like, okay, well, you made that look like nothing. Like it was really boring, to be honest.
And that's good. Boring is good.
Exactly. And I've come to learn that is the best part of venomous keeping, is the boring part, is not running around the house trying to catch something or being chased or whatever. But we go back to these people that are free handling and saying that they know everything and that everything is good. And it just, I think we all agree that it's not good. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do these shows. You know my feeling on it, I'm sure. I am 100% dead set against it. I don't know if you heard, from my understanding, somebody in South Florida was bitten by an Egyptian cobra.
We helped with that. We helped with that. Yeah.
So, and here we go again. We're free handling. You know, why?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, Jeff Fobb is a dear friend of mine from Venom 1, and he always taught me, because he helped mentor me in king cobra handling, actually. I used to fly down there and just work with his collection before I would bring a king in for venom production. But Jeff, you know, he used to say, you know, people say it's not a matter of if but when, but it is a matter of if. You know, if no private keeper should ever get bitten.
Yep.
Period.
I agree.
It should never happen. And now, you know, there's a lot of very respectable herpetologists in the world that have been envenomated. But if you're really into the husbandry and watching the physiological eccentricities of these snakes and things like that, it should never happen. You should always have your tools there. You should always do that kind of stuff. And when I don't get too vocal about it, because I thankfully left Facebook years ago. But you know, that animal is only tolerating you. Mm-hmm. And the question is how long is it going to tolerate? So I have black mambas. You could come to the lab. I could put them around your neck and they'd never do anything. I have black mambas that will not chase, but will come and confront you mouth agape. Mm-hmm. You know, and then sometimes the snakes have bad days. I extract about 75 a day.
Okay.
And I have snakes that have been with me for the whole existence of the business that have never acted up, and then one day they do that one thing you're not prepared for, and that's when you get bitten.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's far more respectable and careful venomous keepers now than there were 10 years ago, but it's still like the Wild West.
Yeah, and that's it comes down to, you know, we bred retics and a lot of the, you know, ball pythons and bearded dragons, and, you know, dealing with the public is difficult enough. I couldn't even imagine trying to sell somebody something that is or potentially could kill you in almost an instance in some cases. Correct. And I understand now why Cody has always stood by that, saying I'm very particular on who animals go to because of that.
Right.
Because you don't want to end up with that YouTube click and view, come check me out, look at me, head bob, you know, wave a hat in front of a king cobra that, you know, I can't wrap my head around it. And to me, it's like, to each their own, do your own thing. The problem I have with it is it's going to affect all of us at some point.
And you know, a lot of the free handlers say that's not true. But, you know, it's like there's that kid Chris Shannon over in Thailand or whatever, and he free handles everything. And he says, I could never affect what's happening in the United States, but in Florida, when they're trying to make legislation, they're playing his videos.
Yep.
They don't care that it's on the other side of the earth. They're just, you know, the thing is, I have friends who free handle, right? Mm-hmm. And I deal with them on it on a very different basis. I said this in one other interview. One of the popular free handlers has a child, and every time he posts a video of free handling, I send him pictures of his kids.
Yep.
To remind him, it's not worth it, because your day's gonna come. Yeah. But it's and nobody has serum, even though it's incredibly inexpensive to do. It's free to get your permit.
Yeah,
free to get your license.
And that's something that we've all, I think all of us at Cody's have talked, and as he's doing his, we're all also going to do ours, because as many animals as we've had, my wife is still very nervous. Yeah. You know, so I mean, and rightfully so. So we'll do it the right way, and you know, we'll be able to say that, hey, you know, even though I may only have a half dozen animals, I'm still going to protect myself, because God forbid that 1% happens.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, a lot of studies have been done on. Let me back up. A lot of private keepers have argued with other venom extractors, other herpetologists, whatever. That you know, it's too expensive, or what was I going to say? Basically, it's too difficult to get the permit. It's this, it's that. It's a simple process, and it's free. Yeah. And the FDA wants you to have it. You know, the biggest thing I see are private keepers who get bitten, and let's say, who cares how, right? But they're bitten, and then when they go to the hospital, they're shocked that there's not sub-Saharan, African polyvalent there. It's just, it blows my mind. And the thing, circling back, the thing that I've always said to people that are really pro free handling is, then don't put it on the internet.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, this is my thing. If you're doing it and it's all about your relationship with the animal, why in the fuck do you put it out for the whole world to see? Have that be like people get bonded to their dogs, right? Even though we know it can't happen with snakes. It's all tolerance. But they get bonded to their dogs, or they teach their dogs something cool or whatever. They're not posting all over the internet.
Nope.
That's a really horrible analogy, by the way.
No, but
That's
it's
a really
right.
shitty analogy. But you can do, just don't show anybody. I have friends that don't post free handling on the internet, but they go in and that's how they want to service their cages. And my thing is like, you want to get a $500,000 medical bill? That's on you. That's on you.
And that's the thing is, and I've said that now in a couple interviews, and it's funny that the other night, I'm not going to say it's funny because it's not funny. When the individual in Florida was bitten, I was actually on a Zoom call with Ryan Gradney from Primitive Predators, and we were talking about free handling. And there is a time and a place. A big king cobra, I agree. You can't really double hook a 10, 12, 14 foot snake. I get it. I get that sometimes you have to use a tool in your hands. I understand that, but why take why take the big risk and put it on the internet? Like you said, I'm showing my affection and attachment to an animal. I'm surely not filming myself with my wife and posting it on YouTube for everybody to see.
Right.
So if you want to do it with your buddies around and show them how cool it is, I'm fine with that. Do it on your own. That's your thing. When it's going to potentially affect me is when I have a problem with it. And that's what a lot of these guys don't even understand is it's not that I don't care what you do.
Right.
What the hell do I care?
Well, yeah,
but it affects us.
It does. Here's one thing. Jim Harrison from Kentucky Reptile Zoo has said this many times, and he's damn right. It's not going to be us laboratories that lose our right to have these animals.
Yeah.
It's going to be the people like Cody and Pia, people that breed to help feed our line with animals. It ends. And when you think about in herpetology on the whole, how many people are not scientists that make these outstanding observations in their animals, it takes away, of course it ruins it for everybody, but the thing that, like I said, Jim always says is, I'm not going to lose my venomous snakes because we're a lab. So why as a community wouldn't we police ourselves to prevent everyone from losing the opportunity? Can you imagine if Klauber couldn't have, worked with rattlesnakes? Yeah. How little we'd know about them?
Yeah. It's like you said, just don't put it on the internet. I don't get it. I do, because people are getting, Ryan says it in our video, people are getting paid by YouTube to have these, oh my God, videos. It's just a road we shouldn't go down. It's something that, like you said, you're not going to lose the right, but I potentially can, and I don't have my permit yet. So when something bad happens and I go to apply for it and they say, nah, we're not even going to come out, it's not worth it, here's your money back. All the time and effort that people have put into getting the hours in that they're requiring and doing all the legwork, we're all out. So how many animals do you have on the line total, approximately?
Approx would be about 1,150-ish.
Yeah.
It's tough with the invertebrates because half of that's invertebrates.
Okay.
And so, it's all wild caught imports that we get, to do the scorpion anti-serum.
Okay.
But so they don't always last real long because the exporters send the big ones, which you know how it is. Yeah, they're not going to last long. But on the other hand, we have some wild caught Androconus australis that have been with me for years. So, but anyway, that count can get off just by scorpion deaths and centipede deaths, but it's pretty minimal. And snake deaths, I mean, they happen. You know, you're putting a snake through. The thing about venom extraction is you're putting these animals through what's got to be truly the most terrifying experience of their life.
Okay.
And so some can take it and some can't. You know, I know Jim Harrison talks, he's got cottonmouths that are 30 years old, and we've got coral snakes that are almost 15 now, which is unheard of. But then you'll get one in that looks really healthy. You'll get it through quarantine, it's eating, and then just the stress of extraction can cost you that animal.
Okay.
But back to your question, about 1,100.
Okay, yeah, no, you know, this is, Nate, these are, I think, the things that a lot of people don't understand what you and Jim and others are doing in these extractions and what happens. And, you know, we all say it, we say it at Cody's house all the time, 200 snakes is a lot, and there's always going to be attrition. You're going to lose things are going to die. And that's, the more, it's just a law of it's numbers. You know, the more you have, the higher the percentage. And, you know, you're talking 1,100 animals, and that's, you know, it is a big number. And I think it's interesting. And I think people want to know, wow, you know, you take care of that much. And that's what's feeding, what's the best way to put it? You're feeding what's potentially going to save one of these people or one of us. Right. You know, and we need to police this and make it so that, you know, when somebody produces X amount of animals and they call you and say, hey, I've got a surplus of this, you know, I'll be honest with you, I have no intentions of wanting to breed anything. But if something were to breed, you would be one of you guys would be the first call. I don't care about the money. I just don't want to, I don't want to sell it to somebody that isn't going to take care of it properly. And I really don't want to deal with the public with something like that. I don't feel comfortable.
Well, it's interesting, you know, and you'd have to get Cody and Pia's perspective here. But, you know, black mambas and green mambas that they produced for me have already gone into anti-venom and have saved people's lives.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, talk about having, I think, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but they have a big sense of pride in that.
Yeah, 100%. We all do, because we're all a part of, you know, working all of those animals and trying to get to that point. And, you know, Cody is amazing. And he's always asking us interns, which is, it's an honor to even be asked, hey, what do you think? And it's like, listen, it's not mine, but I think that's awesome. You know, it's at the end of the day, like I said, what's better than sending off all the pain in the ass animals to Nate? It's less snakes that I have to clean.
Right. Well, right. And it's not like Cody donates them either. You know, we try to make it fair for the work that he does. I want to circle back to something you talked about, though. When we talk about death in captivity, I think we live in a world right now where a lot of the wild caught venomous are just treated like no one. It's almost like the animal's life doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, they're throwaways. It's like, oh, I bought 3 Echis from, it doesn't matter who, right? I bought 3 Echis and, oh, you know, they died. Well, why did they die? What caused it? And one thing I like, I'm really giving Cody and Pia too much credit here, but it's just going to inflate his ego more. But, excuse me. But I think, you know, at least they try to find out why. Yeah, 100%. You know, I mean, yep. When we're getting wild-caught import green mambas and we're paying $35 a piece for them, we know they're going to likely be in rough shape. Yeah. You know, and you're going to lose them. But captive animals like they produce for us, which we have a lot of, you know, they hold up better.
You should see the baby blacks. Whew.
I know he and I are already talking about them because there's one place they're going.
Oh yeah, listen,
I love them. I love them.
there is no more beautiful animal. That slaty gray and blue
It's so
is,
cool.
yeah, there's nothing, you know. And listen, I went to Cody's to get my venomous just to get eyelash vipers, and I want mambas now, you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my wife is like, "What?" She's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like they're such spectacular animals that they're just amazing to keep. You know, they're amazing to handle. You know, they have huge personalities. Those babies are scary.
Some of the black mambas that I've worked with, you know, it's kind of like I put it akin to king cobras. Like the bigger they are, the more mellow they typically are.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's just a snake you can never let your guard down. And you know, a
Yeah.
lot of people want to have it just so they can say they have a black mamba. Well, if you're truly maintaining that animal in an appropriate manner, it should be primarily hands off, and you should never get bit and never need to mess
Yep.
with it.
Yep.
Just enjoy it doing what it does.
Doing mamba things.
Doing mamba things, yeah.
Yeah.
At the lab, it's funny you say that because we have a saying: if one of the mambas is really worked up, that's one of our lines in there is, "Oh, it's doing mamba things."
It's the exact same thing. And it's funny because he'll pull one of the big ones out and he'll say, "Look at, you know, that was really easy and it was really mellow, but when it wants to, it can be a mamba and it can do mamba things like no other mamba." So just always keep that in the back of your mind that, you know, no matter what, I mean, those animals, those bigger, like you said, the bigger ones come out real easy. I've never seen, up until going to Cody's and in zoos, I've never seen a big black mamba.
Right.
And to watch Cody take a rat on a set of tongs and watch that snake come up real slow and kind of poke it and then just grab it and pull it off the tongs, it's like everything you see is like this flash of, you know, I'm coming in to attack and envenomate, and, you know, it's crazy. And, you know, I can't.
People forget that these creatures live, you know, in solitude and spend the majority of their time hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, black mambas, it's hard to explain, but like we saw them when I was over in Africa, and you know, they're just cruising through the trees doing their own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you have one and you have a nice arboreal setup, again, you should never have to mess with it. Yep. Just enjoy the beauty of the snake. You know, our displays here, I actually put the asshole black mamba that scratched me on display. I said he's going on a timeout, and then kind of I had him tattooed on my arm.
Yep, so, that's awesome.
But actually, you know, not to get too heavy, but that's my reminder because my Bothrops is on there now, and then my stiletto snake is going on, and we have a checklist when you go into the extraction area, and I stole it from Carl Barton.
Okay.
Reptile, yeah.
Yep.
And Carl was a pilot for a long time. Mm-hmm. So there's this acronym that pilots use called I'm safe. And so it's, you know, do I feel illness? Am I mentally, you know, where I need to be to go in, et cetera, et cetera. Have I imbibed alcohol? Did I break up with my girlfriend? Whatever.
Yeah.
And so these are an extra check for me. You know, I've been fortunate in my career with venomous extraction, but it reminds me that, you know, I have 2 kids at home and a wife, you know, so when we go through that checklist, that's my little reminder.
It's funny because again, back to the first things that I was taught was, hey, if you're not feeling it, don't do it.
Don't do it.
So a lot of times I would go to Cody and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to work this animal because I know it's nuts.
Right.
And I just don't feel comfortable right now. You know, if you want me to skip it, I'll skip it. If you want to do it. And he's just like, no, you know, stop and, you know, take a deep breath. And, you know, you always catch yourself when you say, hey, you know, it's just not the right time right now. I don't feel it, you know?
So what I do with my staff and, which is primarily interns that are earning college credit, and then high school students that are taking college level biology and stuff like that. I have them bring 2 hooks over when they move a snake. And
Mhm.
the idea is, if you're moving a snake, especially something arboreal, which of course we really don't let them, we don't hand people a mamba right away.
Yeah, of
But
course.
drop the hook back away, grab another tool, and we really stress that. And then that's for the people that I trust with our forest cobras and our mambas. But when we're teaching, I hate to say students, but when we're teaching young adults, we always teach, I don't care if it takes you 30 minutes to get the copperhead out of its cage
Yep.
and put it in the soaking can or what have you to do cage maintenance. I don't care if it takes 30 minutes because you're going to be alive at the end of it.
Yep.
So I really try to stress with people, take your time.
Yeah.
And the snake will exploit it if you're nervous and
I watched Cody. We had to break down 8 6-foot Neodesh cages. So we got to, I think it was the last Western Green, and I think it was about 2.5 hours of that snake going from this side of the cage to this side of the cage, slide the glass this way, back and forth, back and forth. And Cody was like, one of 2 things is going to happen. We're going to be here until tomorrow, or this snake's finally going to get tired of this and come flying out of here and try to kill me.
Right.
And it took a couple hours, and it finally came out, went up in the shelving, and by the time it was done, Cody was like apologizing to us for just standing there, and we're like, oh, there's nothing to apologize for. You're not. It's not your time. It's their time.
Right.
We're working on their time. They're not working on our time.
No way. George Van Horn, who's an absolute legend.
Mm-hmm.
He and I kind of mentioned it earlier. Like when we open those tubs, that snake has no idea why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with it. I think it's just a little different for venom extraction because some snakes know you're going to take their venom. Others are just always defensive.
Mm-hmm.
But that snake doesn't know why you're there. And that's the most dangerous time, in my opinion, is facing your snake, as George puts it, because it has no idea. And so a lot of times it'll go into the most extreme self-defense it can possibly do.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think, kind of pulling those out and seeing the snake's attitude. But to your point, just waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting for the right time. Actually, not yesterday, Sunday, I had to do the run of black mambas, and there were 2 that are normally pretty mellow. They let me do what I need to do. They'll mouth gape and they'll strike a little bit and hood out.
Yeah.
But that's about it. They were psychotic. And so you know what I did? Okay, the water's good. Close the tub, and we'll give them a nice break, and we'll come back and do them when they're ready.
Yeah. And that's, back to people keeping venomous. It's the perfect opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Something's not right. That animal's not acting right. I don't feel well. That pile of crap is a pile of crap.
Right.
It's not going to be gone tomorrow. Right. It'll still be there. So if that's the case, I've had Cody tell us a million times, hey, we're not working this one, or this one. Some they're just off. Leave them alone. They're fine. Yeah. I'll take care of them later. And it's like, okay, no problem. There's no question behind it, whatever, and we just go on with what we're doing. And that's, that's the big thing. And like, back to your point of what's going on with people and keeping their animals, I have a lot of respect for a lot of people in this industry. And it's scary to see some of the things that you see. And, our conversation the other night with Lilith, that's a beautiful animal that, in my honest opinion, why has it not been taken to a vet? And I've asked, and I get that, Kevin knows more than most of the vets around here. And maybe that's so, I don't know Kevin, so I know of him on the internet.
I don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
And I don't like conjecture, but I'll say one thing. That abscess on the head, the sunnenness of the eye, it looks to me like someone tried to venomoid it. That's what it looks like to me. Because if you look where it's happening, it's the general area of the gland.
Yeah.
And it looks like infection and horrible dehydration to watch
Yeah.
the eyes sink into the skull like that. So, you know, that's one thing that my mentor taught me is, you know, shut up, listen, and learn, and you don't know everything. So it's just like if Cody came here to visit, which I hope never happens. He, I hope it never happens. But if he came and he wanted to handle a black mamba, there's probably things he could teach me, right?
Yeah.
I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know more than anyone else. And those of us in the venom industry that are really close, we try to share our mistakes with each other.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of learn from each other, because, you know, the two oldest people from the Haas days, the Bill Haas days extracting venom, are Jack Facene and George Van Horn.
And listen, this is a funny thing. I live 15 minutes from both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
right
awesome.
here. I'm right here on the edge of Kissimmee and St. Cloud, right on 192. So
Nice.
yeah, super cool.
Yeah. And Jack, you know, it's an interesting thing, you know, I just drove him to the point of insanity till he'd kind of mentor me. And and then he and his wife have become, you know, lifelong friends. And then, of course, I named the Serpentarium after him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he always taught me, you know, sit back and shut the hell up, because there's always someone that knows more. There's always a new method coming out. So we try to innovate, you know, because of that, and do our jobs safer and treat our animals better. And, you know, I mean,
yeah, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I can say this, it's again back to, you know, of course, back to Cody, because that's my mentor, and
Right.
I look up to him a lot. And it's an honor when we're doing something and he says something to the effect of, wow, I didn't know you could do that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good job. You know, I like that. And it makes me feel good. And at the end of the day, I feel like all of us, you know, myself and Gio, Daniel, Derek, Samantha, Bristol, and everybody else that's there, Marcus, we've all come through the same program. And as the newer people get better, like me and Gio could go in and, you know, Cody doesn't even have to say anything. There was a point when I lived closer that I would just show up on Saturday morning, sometimes 7:30, he'd still be sleeping. I knew what I had to do. I would pull a rack out and just start cleaning stuff, and he would get up. I'd be like, oh, there's coffee. I'm already halfway through this, because I know it's got to be done, you know, and you get to that point as an intern where, you know, you can do all that stuff. And he put a lot of faith in all of us. And if you're not willing to listen twice as much as you talk, then it's never going to work.
I'll give an example of what we saw here. So I used to be the only extractor for the business, but I brought on a young biologist who was drawn towards the invertebrates. I taught him how I do it. He does it better than me, you know, and that doesn't smash my ego. It makes me happy that I found someone that's doing it better than me.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to, you know, circling back, you have to have that ability to, you know, the kid's almost 10 years younger than me, and he kicks my ass at venom production of invertebrates. That doesn't make me mad. It makes me go, I got a really smart employee who found a better way to do it.
Yep.
You have a better way to do it.
Yep, you have a good employee and somebody that obviously is worthwhile to have there. It's not somebody you constantly have to look over their shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, are you working with any species that you're working on breeding for your own, you know, for the line itself, or do you just not have enough time to even deal with any of that?
So here's my problem. My problem are baby snakes and having the time and allocate to care for them.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
You know, I've actually never bred anything. I never tried in the 31 years I've been dealing with reptiles. I've just never tried, because I think it's an art form, and people like Michael Vesio and Cody, they're doing things people didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Mike bred and raised all of those spider tail viper babies.
Yeah.
And so, I leave it to people where breeding is their forte. For me, it is not.
Yeah.
I'm just the dumb guy that grabs it behind the head and makes it bite something.
Now there's another thing. I watched one of your videos when you guys, I think, first opened up, and you had talked about when you extract, you don't squeeze any of the glands. You take whatever they give, and then that's it. Do you think that's more stressful on the animal?
Well, if you talk to Jim and Kristen, the answer would be no. They feel they're the only, put it this way, there's 9 of us venom extraction firms in the world.
Okay.
One guy squeezes glands. The rest of us don't because we feel it's detrimental. Okay. Now, they don't agree with us, but they do it their way. My problem is especially with viperins, if you have a viperid bite, you get tissue, you get garbage in that venom. And so it's like Nancy Haas put it one way. She said, it's like squeezing an orange. How many times can you do it? And have quality.
Yeah, yeah.
So I let our snakes bite naturally as much as I can. There's a couple where they'll come up to the glass to bite. They'll put their fangs through in a couple little drops, and I'll rub my finger over the top of their head, kind of by the glands. And they'll release the rest of it. But to me, I think it's a barbaric practice. It's worked for them for decades. So who am I to say it's wrong? But I can tell you, at the end of the day, when we centrifuge those venoms, you see all the tissue that you get.
Okay.
And so one of my basically my right hand in the business for the last couple of years, Megan, always explains we don't sell snake gum tissue. We sell venom.
Yep.
And so, for me, I think it's unethical. I think it's hard on the snake. That's my opinion. And I don't try to push it on Kentucky Reptile Zoo or anything like that. Bill Haas didn't believe in it either. He thought it was barbaric. So,
So we'll stick on with that part. I've seen that you guys have done some King Cobra. What do you want to call it? Demos, I guess would be the best way. Some demonstrations.
Not a bad way to put it. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think if there's one venomous snake, I think that everybody would know is the King Cobra. I think that's probably one of the iconic, snakes.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. So my question is, I know there was a little bit of backlash from the demo from Jim and Kristen about the kids that were in the area, and I saw the pictures. I didn't really see much past that. I guess I've never worked with a King Cobra. I've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And I've heard what a pain they can be and how dangerous they are. So I guess the question is, in your opinion, what do you think was going on? I mean, do you think that you guys there was enough safety involved?
Well, first of all, I didn't even know they had commented on that. I wasn't there. But pictures can be deceiving, and the distance for people to be from the snake can be deceiving. It can look a lot closer than it is. What they probably didn't see in those pictures were the 4 other people holding hooks, ready to go.
Yeah.
If anything happened. Most people were. The thing with King Cobras is, even if they're being defensive, you can outwalk them. Yeah, I mean, they're not fast.
Okay.
You can walk at a slow pace and get away from one. I wasn't aware they came after us for that, but
I don't think it was really a come after. I think it was just a question of why. I'm trying to think of how it was worded. Why are the kids so? Why were the kids so close? And again, forced perspective, how many times do you see a picture with somebody like this and
you mean
know
with
it's
their 20-foot Eastern Diamondback? Yeah.
exactly.
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 Jim and I respect the hell out of Jim and Kristen. I
Yeah,
think
of course.
Kristen is one of the finest reptile educators I have ever seen.
Mhm.
But they're pious people, and they believe the way they do things is the only right way. Whereas, like I said, you know, Jack Facette and everyone taught me there's always a better way. Now, we do those king shows once a month.
Okay.
And we do them for the same reason we let people come and watch us extract venom, to get them charged up for science, right?
Yeah, it's
And it's also an homage to Bill, because every weekend Mr. Haas would go and do a King Cobra show.
mhm.
So it's probably tough. I would say no one, not even exaggerating, I would say no one was closer than 15 or 20 feet from that snake.
Yeah, which to me, I mean, again, I've never worked with them, and I'm strictly asking from the aspect of
Yeah.
this is what was said. What is your thought? I think it's awesome to get people involved, and again, we go back to the click and view guys. This is different. This isn't what they're doing isn't for education. What they're doing is for showboating. What
Right.
you're doing is getting people involved and wrapping their head around what they see. See, up there, I'm sure it's different. Down here, people come to work and say, oh, I killed a snake in my yard. Well, what was it? Well, this is what it looked like. Well, that was a black racer, and you didn't have to
Right.
kill it. You could have swept it, and it would have been gone. You know, so if you can show those people that, hey, this isn't a bad animal, you can do this. The only way to do that is to get it in front of them. Sitting here, me and you talking, we'll never do that.
Putting a, I mean, you know, putting a wire mesh cage around the area is not, in my opinion, safer than the 5 people that were hook ready.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll put it this way: I have, Jim and Kristen do not have children. I have 2 young kids. One's 9, one's 7. I wouldn't put my own kids, much less the general public, in danger.
Yeah, of course.
I don't do anything that I wouldn't trust for my own family. And those King Cobra shows, it gets people so amped up. And just the look of awe and wonder, you know, stuff that it sounds dumb, but you know, the normal face I see from a kid when we're extracting inside the lab is, you know, that's the normal face. And that's the face I had when I was looking at brochures of Miami Serpentarium and everything like that. So, you know, they are decades more experienced than I am, but we just do things a different way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, you know, again, I want to do these interviews to get good word out to people and for people to learn what really happens on the good side of the industry. And there's a lot of good that happens. Unfortunately, there is a lot of bad.
Yes.
And like you said, one of the things that is devastating to all of us is when you see, you go into a store and you see dead animals. My wife is notorious for, you go into a bad store and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, this is dead, that's dead. And it's like, man, and then you go into another place and you're like, wow, I'm blown away. You know, this is amazing. And to what you're saying is bringing these kids in to see that portion of, oh my God, look at that. I've never seen that before. It's different than seeing it on your TV.
Right. It truly is. And we're very hands-on here. And you know, I know this isn't, this side of it's not really the portion that we were going to talk about, but even in our, we have other things besides reptiles, right?
Okay.
So we try to have stuff that's hands-on all the time. Owls and all kangaroos, all kinds of stuff that people can learn and explore, because snakes and lizards and frogs and all that, that's not everybody's thing. So, we try to have it be a hands-on experience. I'm not going to hand a kid a black mamba or a king cobra.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, what we do is in that king cobra show, we show some behavior, and that's when all of my staff are on red alert, right? Mm-hmm. They're focused only on that snake.
Yeah.
And then we extract from it, and then we tube it.
Okay.
And so it's in a tube, and that's when we let people get closer to be able to see the markings and see the snake. And I feel that a tubed snake, what's it gonna do when there's 5 of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not gonna do anything.
But then, it's not like Bill used to do, where he would just hold the snake. Well, your hand's going to eventually get tired, and you could get bitten and then drop it, whatever. But we try to tube them. Well, we don't try. We do tube them every time. So some of the pictures where it may look like kids are right on top of it, first of all, it's perspective. And second of all, it's tubed.
Yeah.
So,
which I think we've talked about that down here is I think that's a great way for somebody to be able to say, wow, that was really cool. I touched the tail of a king cobra.
Right.
I touched the tail of an American alligator, or a Morlet's croc, or a Nile croc, or something to that effect.
Whatever have you.
Yeah. I mean, I know. How's the eagle doing?
Oh, the eagle's great. I'll tell you something funny. Working with those birds of prey, I'm super into evolution. Okay. So, those birds closest, as far as science is right now, their closest ancestor are crocodilians, right? And it's fascinating to watch those, because, it's also scientific consensus that birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs. And so, to me, that ties right to reptiles, because if you go by the latest science, and it drives a few people nuts that I say this, but birds are reptiles. I don't care if you like it or not. That's what the fossil record's showing us and everything. So, to work with those birds, to me, gets my heart rate up. Okay. Working in the Venom Lab, I don't get excited. I don't get it's work. You're focused. You're doing your thing. But with those birds that actually can build a bond with you, that are smart enough to be trained and all that stuff, I think it's fascinating. And we do our bald eagle exhibit. You get closer to a bald eagle than you could ever get anywhere.
Yeah. That's an amazing bird.
You know what? She truly is. And she's helped us teach a lot of kids. I would say right now, since we put her on display, no exaggeration, probably 900 people have seen her so far. Wow. And we set chairs all around her area, and people sit, and they come in. They hate snakes. They hate lizards. They hate all that shit. They come in and just look at that bald eagle. And, and they just rave about it, because it's not in a huge aviary hiding or whatever. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Where else are you going to get that experience? I mean, it's again, like going to Cody's. Where are you going to get that experience?
Exactly.
Anywhere else. And it's exciting. And, if we can get out of our own way enough, more good things will happen. Right. But not policing ourselves it's a shitty thing to think that one person's stupidity could potentially ruin it for us all.
For everybody.
Earlier, you were talking about somebody with a daughter, and I'm pretty sure I know who that person is, and he just bought land and is trying to open up a facility. Yeah. How bad would it be if, while he was doing one of these free handling things, he took a bite and the state of Florida just dropped the hammer on all of us and said, you know what, that's enough. Enough is enough.
Well, it's
we're
like
taking it all away.
exactly. And I mean, you know, a lot of people forget why Mr. Haas closed his first serpentarium and moved. And that was because apparently, this is an old story. I'm probably going to screw part of it up. But Bill had a bunch of crocodilians.
Okay.
And in a giant pit. And this dad lifted up the son over the side, and the kid fell, and the crocs killed him.
Oof.
And Bill never forgave himself for that all the way to his deathbed. And so, you know, like, it happened in a split second, and it changed his entire life.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't his fault.
No, absolutely not.
You know, but at the same time, it changed his whole. He shut down the original Serpentarium and then moved to Punta Gana, something.
Punta Gorda.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I don't understand it. I just stutter because I just don't understand it. And by the way, I got to correct you on something.
What's that?
I got to correct you. You said I'm at work, but I'm not.
Ah, okay. Nice.
As I sit and drink beer, I'm sitting there going, "Oh Christ! If anybody sees that, they'll think I'm going out to extract after."
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
We're done. We're done for the night here. So.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it boils down to we bring animals, you know, we bring animals into our homes, we bring animals into facilities, animals are in pet stores, animals are wherever, you know, from the wild, whatever it is. And if we can just be smart about it and not do these foolish things, then, you know, we'll be okay. People releasing animals into the wild, obviously we know what's going on here in Florida.
Right.
We know that it's probably a very small percentage of people have done that.
But you have the perfect habitat.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, they went after all the CSP stuff. And that's what I keep trying to tell everybody is, you know, they took one thing away. And once they did that, it just opened that door up. And now the foot's in, and it's just a matter of time before each domino is going to fall. And every time we give them that ammunition, it's the Chris Sweets and Tyler and all these other people that they just keep throwing it out there, I'm just going to keep tossing it to you. Here's the low hanging fruit. I'm the guy that has 150,000 followers or 180,000 followers, and I've got to do all this exciting stuff. And I said it with Ryan. And I believe when I talked to Graham Battison from the UK, I said the same thing. All these guys have the passion, the knowledge that they could do this stuff without doing that part of it and be better. And that's my honest opinion. I have zero problems with any of them personally. It's just that one thing. That's it. You know?
You know, yeah. It's just mind-boggling. Anyway.
So now what do you see as far as the future of what you're doing? Are you going to continue obviously to expand? Are you more on the invertebrate side or the snake side as far as extracting goes, or is it kind of like a mixture?
It's heavy on snake, light on scorpion.
Okay.
And it's kind of always going to be that way. You know, I mean, the number of scorpions that truly cause fatality throughout the Middle East and Africa, you know, it sounds so wrong to say it like this, but it's true. There's not a huge market for it. You know, all these people think they're going to get 20 scorpions and make $30 million. It's not how it works.
No.
It's not how it works. They all see that same news article that said a gallon of, I forget which type of scorpion it is, but a gallon of it's worth like 36 million. Yeah, that doesn't even. Manufacturers need very little to do very great things.
Yeah, that number doesn't seem to make very much sense.
Yeah, well, that article, I think you can search it just by saying like most expensive liquid in the world, and it comes up as scorpion venom and all that stuff. But it's about equal it was equal for a while here. We had to build up for a customer. We had to build a huge inventory of venom for them, but now it's kind of slowed down.
Okay.
So it's more snake right now. But a lot of the anti-venom manufacturers are doing COVID vaccines. So that's kind of slowed some things down a little bit.
Yeah. Now that's kind of been one of the things that we've all heard, and one of the on the flip side of antivenom and hospitalization is with COVID here right now, taking any undue risk is almost psychotic, because if you go into an emergency room and you had a snake bite and there's no ventilator there, you're pretty well screwed.
And you're 100% right. And one thing Jim talks about in the venom interviews, if it's inclement weather, he doesn't extract. If there's, all these different things. We had a huge snowfall here, big surprise. And I wouldn't do it either, because the response time for the EMTs, if they had to be called, or to get me to the hospital, it's a 10-minute drive, but in a blizzard where a foot of snow is falling, it's a 30-minute trek. So,
if not longer.
Yeah.
That's and those are the things that I think a lot of people, they, again, back to, I take my experiences, and I work at a company, there's over 400 employees, and when you say to somebody, this is what we keep, or this is what we do, they're like, oh my God, and they're like, oh, there's no venomous snakes here in Central Florida. And it's like, no, there is.
There's a lot.
They're like, what are you talking about? And then you explain it to them and they're like, I've seen those before. I didn't think those were, and it's like, no, you should definitely educate yourself on what's here, but understand that if you just stay away from it, it's no worry.
The number of people, on a side note to that, the number of people that live in Wisconsin and do not know we have 2 native rattlesnake species, it's hilarious. Because here they see them. We have timber. The southern and western part of our state is riddled with timber rat. They're everywhere.
Okay.
We don't even have a bite a year, and the populations are huge.
Okay.
But most people don't even know we have them. They did, and we have Massasaugas. We have eastern Massasaugas, and their populations they're so hard to find. When our Department of Natural Resources goes out to survey them, but they're here. But nothing's biting anyone, so no one is even aware. Even though, funny enough, the minor league baseball team is called the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. People don't know why.
Like, well, I wonder why.
Because they're in the fucking state. That's why they're called that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just people being naive to it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, a lot of people are really fascinated here when they see the Crotalus horridus display, because they're not even aware that they're there. And I said, exactly, the snakes don't want anything to do with you.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't want to be in your house. They don't want to be in your pool. They don't want to be bothered by you. They want to stay as far away from you. I've had the pleasure to go out road cruising with Cody. Wow, it was epic. Unfortunately, it was pouring the whole time. Yeah. And it was me, Pia, and Derek, and Cody, and we were driving around in the Ocala National Forest in the Prius, and we found a bunch of cottonmouths, and not one, and I have film of just about all of them, not one of them stopped, flashed, opened its mouth, hissed. They just kind of cruised along on the road, and we didn't touch them. We just let them do their thing. We made sure they were off the road if they were in the middle of the road. At one point we saw a snake in the road, when you stop fast and everybody's going to jump out of the car. Well, Cody didn't put it in park. So he jumps out of the car, runs around the door, realizes the car's still coming, comes back, and as he comes in to step on the brake, Pia hits the park button. And the car stops, and Cody runs right into the post, bounces off of that. He's in the middle of the road, hunched over. Me, Pia, and Derek are in tears. The snake is long gone. That thing was gone. And Cody gets in, and he's like, "Did you guys set me up?" He's like, none of you even got out. We were like, dude, we couldn't get out. When you got out and the car was still going, like me and Derek just looked at each other and just, no, I'm not getting out. You know, it was pouring, you know, but we had so much fun. And again, you find these animals that everybody says, oh, they chase you, you know, they all they want to do is bite you. And it's like, no, they're fine.
People forget that venom is an incredibly powerful resource for that animal.
Yeah.
But on top of that, they don't want to waste it. You know, I mean, you know,
they need that to eat.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, I mean, think about how many dry bites happen.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Now, what is your, do you have main species of focus? Or I know there was some talk from Cody before that you guys were looking for the rattlesnake, the cane breaks.
Oh yeah, we like cane breaks. We were looking for some for a study. We ended up getting a couple.
Okay.
Because naturally, for our display, we want to show a Wisconsin native.
Yeah.
They're very, very different, not just by venom composition, but by you know, just looking at them, right? You know, you can tell a cane break, especially from your guys' area, because they're pink. I mean, they're absolutely stunning. Same way with Crotalus atrox. In New Mexico, they're pink and purple.
Okay.
You know, you go over to Texas, you know, and they're gray and, you know, they're look like So, yeah, we were looking for some of those. Most of our jobs were under non-disclosure.
Okay.
But for anti-serum, you know, we're doing primarily sub-Saharan Africa, so a lot of gaboons, a lot of mambas, a lot of echis. You know, I would say Africa is a large part of our work. We're doing some stuff that we can't talk about on another continent, but yeah, that's the main focus.
Yeah.
And I like working with all those snakes anyway. Most of the sub-Saharan African stuff is great. You know, easy to work with, easy to maintain.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, I mean, again, I really appreciate you coming on. I think, and I was talking to Graham about it, I think at some point here in the near future, I've talked to Cody a little bit. I would like to do like a venomous roundtable and use Zoom. And I would like to maybe get a group of people involved and have some questions developed, and I'll moderate and just throw the questions out and then kind of just have everybody answering the questions. And, you know, I think it would be kind of interesting to get the perspective of multiple people all at one time.
Sure.
And but I hate beating up on the free handlers, and I don't want to do that. I really don't. But at the end of the day, it's a big part of what this venomous side is. And, you know, we don't want to lose the rights that we have. So, you know, especially from people that honest to God, I think they have a lot to offer. They're just potentially going to hurt us. It's just like anything else, you know, the guy that goes and buys the handgun and carries it on the airplane, you know, I like to compare venomous to handguns. You know, I always tell people, if my gun is right there, it's sitting on my dresser, would you pick that gun up, pull it out of the holster and put it to your head and pull the trigger? I hope not, because it's always has a chambered round.
Right.
So what's the difference of that King Cobra that's got it's got 2 chambered rounds that it could potentially just say, I've had enough of you touching me there, I'm just going to bite you.
Exactly.
You know? And that's the part that scares me that people don't realize. And again, one of the reasons I waited personally so long to get into venomous because of my kids, because I never wanted to put them in that position to not know the difference, you know? So, but again, man, I really appreciate you coming on. You know, I hope to get you back on again real soon. And, you know, I hope to get up there when the weather breaks and COVID, you know, we definitely want to get up. So, or you get down here. One or the other. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Yep. But all right, man. Well, again, thanks for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. So,
all right.
Talk to you soon, Nate.
Take care.
Yep.